They parked 3 trucks at the edge of my driveway, men climbing out with shovels and metal detectors, yelling like I was some kind of criminal mastermind hiding stolen pipes under my lawn. Neighbors stopped on the sidewalk, staring at me like they'd just discovered the town thief. And all I could think was, how the hell did I become the villain in a story I never signed up for? My name's Ethan Cole. I'm 36, a financial advisor. And 4 years ago I bought this place exactly because it sat outside the gated grasp of the Brookhaven Homeowners Association. Independence was the dream. Private well, private septic. No board meetings, no dues, no pastel-colored rulebook telling me what mailbox to buy. But apparently, freedom painted a target on my back because their president, Valerie Holt, decided I must be stealing water. Not maybe, not possibly. She filed a lawsuit demanding 18 grand, accusing me of secretly tunneling pipes through bedrock and into their system for 5 years. You read that right. 5 years, apparently. I'd pulled off an engineering project that would make NASA proud, all to avoid a $12 monthly bill. When the process server handed me the papers, I actually laughed. It was too absurd. But when I read deeper, when I saw diagrams, usage reports, pages of official calculations, it stopped being funny. Because those papers weren't just words, they were a weapon pointed at my life. And they demanded not just money, they wanted permission to dig up my yard. Rip through the garden I'd spent 3 summers building. The raised beds, the fruit trees, all of it. Just to verify the phantom pipes. It was outrageous. It was intrusive. And it was only the beginning. The next evening, I walked into the HOA clubhouse for what I thought would be a quick spat. Instead, it was a staged execution. 50 people crammed into a room meant for 30. Valerie stood at the front like a senator on election night, hair immaculate, power suit gleaming, laser pointer in hand. She had slides, charts, handouts. She called me a sophisticated thief, claimed my fake well was just a cover, that I'd been bleeding the community dry. The crowd ate it up. A neighbor I'd waved to for years actually shouted, "So that's why our bills are so high." And when I stood up, my voice shaking, trying to explain my independence, my well, my septic, Valerie countered every word with polished lies. She said thieves like me disguised their crimes, that I was a leech hiding behind a rural address. It was like watching someone burn my reputation in real time. And all I could do was choke on smoke. Then came Lucas Reed, her HOA manager, slithering up to me afterward in the parking lot. Smooth tone, fake sympathy. "We can avoid court. Ethan, just pay $2,000 up front. Settle the rest later. Hook into municipal water like everyone else. Keep it quiet." That's when it hit me. This wasn't about water. This was a shakedown. A scheme dressed in legal language. And somehow, I was the mark. That night, I sat on my deck, staring at the well pump, my mind spiraling. Maybe I'd made a mistake buying outside their lines. Maybe I was naive to think I could live free of their claws. I replayed my dad's words. Honest men have nothing to hide. But what good are those words when an entire neighborhood has been convinced you're a crook? My chest felt heavy, my throat dry. For one terrifying moment, I thought, what if I just paid them? What if I signed a check? Let them dig. Gave up the fight. At least the whispers would stop. At least I could breathe again. But then the anger came back, hot and sharp. No, I wasn't giving them a dime. They wanted me broken. And I'd be damned if I let Valerie Holt own me. The next morning, I went to the county utilities office, A clerk named Sarah pulled the records, flipping through decades of maps. My property had never been connected to Brookhaven's system. But then she frowned. 3 weeks earlier, a revised map had been uploaded, showing my land tied into their main line. The authorization? Lucas Reed. Except Sarah shook her head. She'd never seen him. And no one outside the county could make those changes without in-person ID checks, which meant someone hacked the system or forged credentials. Either way, we weren't talking petty HOA nonsense anymore. We were talking federal crime, infrastructure fraud, the kind that gets the FBI knocking. Walking out of that office, clutching copies of both the original map and the falsified one, I felt a surge of relief. And then my phone buzzed. A text. A photo of me entering the county building, time-stamped that very morning. The message read, "Stop digging or face consequences." My stomach dropped. They were watching me, not just from across a meeting room. They had eyes on me everywhere, and that was meant to scare me into silence. Instead, it lit a fire I didn't know I had. 2 days later, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. Inside were photos, grainy but clear, of Lucas and 2 men in coveralls burying PVC pipe at the edge of Maple Street, the same spot where Valerie's lawsuit claimed I'd tapped into the system. They weren't uncovering stolen pipes. They were planting them, staging evidence. I borrowed a metal detector, went out there myself, and sure enough, the pipes were shallow, disconnected, theatrical props. While I was snapping photos, my phone rang. Valerie's voice, sharp and panicked, telling me I was trespassing, that tampering with utility infrastructure could land me in prison. I could hear Lucas feeding her lines in the background. My hands shook, not with fear anymore, but with rage. They were improvising threats because I'd caught them red-handed. Minutes later, a truck pulled up. 3 men in bogus uniforms, fake badges, pretending to be Brookhaven Utility Services. Except Sarah had told me no such company existed. They stuttered through answers, growing aggressive when I pressed them for permits. I managed to photograph everything, their plates, their faces, before they bolted. It was like watching a bad play crumble. Actors fleeing as the curtain ripped down. I knew then I had them. They weren't just liars. They were criminals playing dress up. And I wasn't going to let them rewrite reality. The courthouse came next. Marble halls, security guards, the smell of coffee and nerves. I stood alone at my table, folder of evidence in hand, while Valerie strutted in with 3 high-priced attorneys and Lucas dragging a cart stacked with binders. The contrast was laughable. Me, a lone homeowner, them, an army. Their lawyer opened with a grand performance about systematic theft, painting me as a cunning fraudster. My turn felt pathetic in comparison, but I laid it out. County maps, timestamps, photos of fake pipes, audio recordings of Valerie threatening me. At first, I thought the judge wasn't buying it. But then he leaned forward, asked Lucas a simple question. How did Mr. Cole tunnel through solid bedrock without permits or machinery? Lucas stammered, contradicted himself, sweated through his collar, and the cracks started showing. Then, out of nowhere, Mark Taylor, a county utilities officer, stepped forward as a witness. He swore under oath that Lucas had approached him months ago, trying to buy his cooperation, offering cash to alter maps when Mark refused. The threats began. Cars parked outside his daughter's school, phone calls at night. His family followed. His voice shook as he admitted he almost gave in. But he couldn't teach his daughter that bullies win. The room went silent. Even the judge's pen froze. And in that silence, I knew Valerie's empire was collapsing. We played the recording of Valerie's phone call, her own voice snarling that I'd trigger federal alarms if I kept digging. It echoed through the chamber like a confession. Valerie went pale, then red, then snapped. She leapt up, shouting, "People like him drag down our neighborhood. We have to protect ourselves." The words hung in the air, dripping with entitlement. The judge fixed her with a stare and said, "Mr. Cole does not live in your neighborhood. He is not under your authority." That was it. The dagger. The end. The lawsuit was dismissed on the spot, and referrals to federal investigators were ordered. Valerie Holt, HOA Queen Bee, had just screamed her way into criminal charges: fraud, conspiracy, falsifying federal records. Lucas Reed, her right-hand man, sat hunched, knowing his name was on every forged file, every staged scam. Their lawyers looked gutted. My neighbors, the ones who'd called me thief, sat slack, jawed in the gallery, realizing they'd been pawns in a con. Walking out of that courthouse, I didn't feel triumphant, cheers or hugs or parades. What I felt was the shift in air, the silence that follows when bullies lose their grip. Valerie had stormed in with power and left under suspicion, stripped of the crown she forged out of lies. And me? I walked down those marble steps with my head high, not because I'd won some grand prize, but because I'd refused to bow. I'd held my ground, and in the end, the truth was louder than all their noise. Sometimes, the lesson is simple. Don't let anyone rewrite your story. That's what this fight taught me. And if you need it in one line, here it is. In this world of HOA power trips, never forget, the truth has teeth, and it bites back. That's the lesson I carry, and it's the heart of every tale on HOA drama unfolded.